I have more of a reflection tonight than a sermon, but I hope that you enjoy it. I grew up in the Midwest, in Michigan. I wasn't a farm boy, but living there definitely meant that you picked up on some of that culture and the terminology. I remember driving down the highway during the early summer and watching the corn grow. There was a saying that we were all familiar with, one that gets spoken over and over again in this early summer up there. You might know it. Knee high by the 4th of July. What that meant was, if it's going to be a good year for corn, that's the first marker. The corn stalks have grown to knee high by the 4th of July. All summer long, we watched the corn grow. It was quite amazing just how fast it went. Before you even knew it, the corn was so high that the deer could hide in it, and most often did. In only a few months' time, the corn was ready for harvest. This was something that we looked forward to up there, especially when our neighbors would drop off a bushel or two of their prized crop. We all loved it. Inevitably, there would be a meal or two in which the corn was endless. I remember fall picnics in which there weren't enough salt shakers to be found, and everybody's chins dripped with butter from the feast. That corn meant a lot to us. The sale of the corn meant a livelihood for the farmers. The food was a delicacy for those who knew how to find the good stuff, like our neighbors grew. It was as if the entire culture was focused on the harvest. As a kid, I remember playing in the fields after the harvest. We would find places where animals had made their summer homes. We would stir up birds who were gleaning the overage. I recall picking up stalks, the ears already plucked, and tying them together for decorations for Halloween and Thanksgiving alike. We used every part of that plant. It was something that defined us in part. It invaded our language and our homes in every way possible, and we soaked it up as a blessing from God. In Michigan, we were proud of our corn. We were pretty sure that it was the best corn, and I still claim that as fact. And so when my family and I moved to Pennsylvania a few years ago, I was a little taken back when I heard that the locals there also said that their corn was the best. I was skeptical. And truth be told, I never had an ear of corn while we lived there that even came close to what I remembered as a child at one of those picnics, with the sweet corn endlessly coming out of the boiling water, with salt shakers so greasy from butter that as a kid I needed 2 hands to pick them up. I thought I knew everything about corn, and that my appreciation was at its fullest. But then something surprising happened that took my appreciation to a whole new level. My appreciation had only been knee-high. In Pennsylvania, they actually have farms out there where you can go and walk in a corn maze. The fields are planted with the intention of not harvesting the corn, but instead are grown for simple fun. It seems like my generation, and maybe a couple of generations before mine, who had played in these fields as kids, saw that their value was even more than the crop, that the fields themselves could bring great joy. The thanksgiving and appreciation was even more than for a simple food source. And so one year, when we were living in Pennsylvania, I saw an advertisement for one of these corn mazes only about 15 minutes from where we were living. This sparked some good memories. I remembered my youth and my good times at picnic tables and in the fields, and I decided that we should take our kids. So if you haven't been in a corn maze, it's like this. You walk in, and immediately you're lost. The corn stalks towering over your head. The goal is to get to the end with both luck and logic, kind of like life itself for some people. As we entered the game, I looked around trying to find any clue I could, and then I spotted it. Right in front of us was the way. The secret was right there in front of us all. If you just had eyes to see it, this maze was the easiest thing in the world. I knew the secret, and my kids were amazed at how I seemed to know every right turn, how I could point out dead ends like magic. But the thing was, I had figured it out. The hidden path, the way, was right there in front of us. After about 15 minutes in the maze, Mackenzie had to pee. And true to fashion, she gave us about 5 minutes warning. We were now in a hurry to get out. It was then that I shared with them my discovery. It was then that I pointed out to them that the way through the maze was right there the whole time, if they just looked down. You see, the maze had been there for a few weeks, and the right path, the path most often traveled, was worn down to dirt. Though it seemed to an untrained eye that the maze was difficult, in all truth, the path was clear and direct for any person with the eyes to see it. Now, after I shared this secret with the kids, in just a few minutes we were out of the maze and Mackenzie was relieved. I remember standing there outside of the porta potty at the farm thinking about how God continually reveals to us new things, and in ways that are most surprising, even in cornfields and standing in line at porta potties. Truth be told, I'd come to this farm thinking that it wouldn't live up to the glory days of my past in Michigan. You see, my prejudices had tainted me. But still, amidst all that second-grade corn, God had shown me that there was value beyond what I could imagine. If you don't see the allegory yet, if you can't see my spiritual discovery in that cornfield yet, I'll spell it out. The corn maze represented life itself, with all of the unexpected dead ends and twists and turns. Our party, my family and I, represented all people who are struggling to get through the maze of life. The kids were lost. There were so many options that they didn't know where to go or what to do. And that dirt path that gave away the right way was the way of Christ. It represented Christ himself, the way. The way was right there guiding us all through. I left that day with a new appreciation for that corn that I loved as a child. I learned that the glory days were good, that those memories of picnics and fields were good, but that still God was using my surroundings to continue to show me his love and teach me. That not only was the past good, but so was today good. Those good old days weren't over. There were still many to go. I drove away that day thanking God for this indescribable gift. And stuck in my head was the Bible verse, I am the way and the truth and the life. I share this reflection with you today because this is the time of year that we're supposed to reflect on the past. We're supposed to remember the good old days and share them with our families. But it gets real easy to forget about what God is doing in our lives now when we only remember the good old days. We don't want to forget to be thankful for our lives today. You see, the good days in God are still here. They are not just memories for us to travel to when we get disgusted with our current situation. Sure, those memories are good and safe, but sometimes we tend to get prejudiced about our history over the present day. Sometimes we tend to think that we already know all that there is to know. Don't forget to live in the moment. And don't forget to realize that God is always at work in your life, even in the dead cornfields and in the porta potty lines. Keep your eyes and ears open. Never stop yourself from growing. You never know when God is going to take your appreciation of something in your life to a whole new level. God is going to surprise us all. And I truly believe that we don't even know yet how thankful we will one day be for all that God has shared with us in this life. Because there is always a new level of understanding and thanksgiving for the great blessings God shares with us. Amen.